Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here. And Brawling. Brawling is among my most favorite playstyles in game, as I am sure most of you are well aware of. Brawling, if for some reason you don't know what that is, that's essentially when you are playing at close range to the enemy ships. How close? Well, it depends, of course, on the tier. Like tier 8 to tier 10, like 11-ish to 13 kilometers in, depending upon exactly where you are in that bracket. Of course, the lower tier you are, the closer you will be to the enemy team because of the shorter gun ranges and such. Tier 7 to tier 5, that's like, what, 9 kilometers around tier 7, 6-ish kilometers around tier 5, and then of course, tier 4 down to tier 1, you're pretty much always brawling because of the very short gun ranges at those tier. But yeah, Brawling is a very fun playstyle for me. I like, getting in there with my heavily armored battleship with many a secondary gun and going to town on the enemy team. Of course, it is a playstyle that I'm sure many of you have heard not exactly pleasant things about in recent years and recent months. And, many commentators, myself included, have stated that Brawling is not exactly in a fantastic place in the year of our Lord 2024 in World of Warships. And it's been like that for a couple of years, but here recently with some of the newer ships that they've been adding into the game, like the Hildebrand, some of the more torpedo-y focused destroyers, cruisers, and even battleships that we got in a dev blog a little while ago, among other changes and other ships that have been announced and added to the game, many a commentator have been saying that, well, you know what, looks like Brawling is dead and it's utterly, pointless to try and even attempt to do in World of Warships in 2024. So I decided just to take, well, my GK out and see how is Brawling going in 2024 in World of Warships. Why GK? You see, GK is a ship that is, well, not exactly well received by many nowadays. If you want evidence of this, just go look back a couple of weeks ago. There's a video on my channel called Germany Suffers with a question mark. I made that video after the Pan American battleships came out into early access. I'm talking about how, the German battleships have these aspects about them, the Pan American battleships have these aspects about them. Basically comparing the two and talking about how I don't think that the Pan American battleship line has completely overshadowed the German battleship line. And in that video, I was talking about GK a bunch, because GK and Preußen have very similar, well, they're the same ship, but Preußen has a different set of main battery guns, but everything about them is 100% the same. And I was talking about GK a lot in that video, and there were plenty, and there still are plenty of comments in that video just absolutely trashing the GK, calling it, one of the worst tier 10 battleships in the game today, the worst ship for Brawling, the worst ship for secondaries today, and World Warships, this, that, and the other. So I figured, okay, let's take out GK, a ship that seems to be maybe not universally looked down upon, but doesn't exactly have the best outlook in life, according to at least a decent bit of commentators on my channel. So if GK can make it work in today's World of Warships, then surely other Brawling ships should, right? So I took GK out and I played a few matches in her. I'm on the North American server. I'm playing around 4-3-ish p.m. U.S. Central Time, so a decent time to be playing. I don't have to wait in matches for that long on the North American server around that time. And anyway, the results were, well, it worked. I was able to do battleship things. I got kills. I did damage. Secondaries got to do their thing plenty of times. got to get very close to some enemy ships and on several occasions. I mean, the match watching the background, it's a pretty good example of that. Now, do we win the match? Well, no. But that's not really the GK's fault. You're one ship on a team of 12, and a lot of times you have to, do a fair amount of heavy lifting just to have a chance at winning. And then, when things don't go right on the other side of the map, doesn't really work out for you. Those things are often beyond your control. So what I'm saying is, the one battleship that makes it out at the end rarely has a chance to really bring it back when, half of your team's already dead by, like, again, the 5, 8, 9 minute mark, right? As far as performance went, as far as damage is concerned, about 160, 170-ish thousand damage was the average for just the little session. And of course, we have, the occasional match where, actually I had 2 matches where DDs are dead, team gets steamrolled, match is over in 8, 9 minutes, right? Obviously, those games, those are like, 30, 40, 50-ish thousand damage games, somewhere in there. So that's to be expected with just how some games go in random battles. As far as kills go, the match watching right now is the highest kill game that I had, which was 4 kills overall. Other games, I had one where I didn't get a kill, but I did do like 165,000 damage. Got some kills stolen out from underneath me. Most of the games I got, 1 or 2 kills, which is fine. So overall, in just this little session with GK on a random weekday evening on the North American server, GK's doing about right with how most other tier 10 battleships do, at least when I play them. Again, 160, 170-ish thousand damage, a couple of kills a game. Had one game that was great, had a couple of games that weren't because the team collapsed. It didn't really seem to matter too much that I was in the GK. I was able, again, to do GK things, get in close, use my Hydro, use my secondaries, and all of that jazz. So it seems that, like, well, GK's doing fine, and Brawling's doing okay-ish in the year of our Lord 2024. Now, I can hear some of you typing already. Well, of course, Sealord, you did fine in GK because you are you. You're some Super Unicum YouTuber that's played this game for over half a decade now. You know how the game works inside and out, all that jazz. Well, yes, I have played this game for quite some time. I would hesitate to call myself anything other than, like, a little bit above average in battleships. I think my overall win rate on my account's like stuck at 55% right now because of all the matches I have on my account at this time. Which 55% win rate, and I believe my PR rating is also in like the good to very good category, but far from Unicum or Super Unicum. There are, of course, some very highly skilled players that have YouTube channels and such. I'm not near as good as they are. I'm more of an average Joe, and that's what the channel's supposed to, be about. More of an average player's perspective on the game. GK, though, obviously I have played a lot of GK in my time, but if, again, you go back and read some of those comments on that Germany Suffers video I did, it sounds like it shouldn't really matter. Whoever's playing GK, it's just a piece of trash boat that is not well suited for the meta. It's one of the worst brawling ships in today's World of Warships. But here again, it's doing fine. Now, was I leading the leaderboard? In a couple of matches I was, but I was hardly, hand of God, destroying the enemy team single-handedly and carrying my team to victory. But a key part of this is that brawling isn't what a lot of players seem to think it is. Smashing W and running headfirst into the enemy team. That's not how brawling works. That's how it works in asymmetric battles, which is why it's so friggin' popular, the mode that is, because you can just smack W, run headfirst into the enemy team because it's a bunch of bots, right? And let your secondaries rack up a ridiculous amount of damage, and you get a bunch of kills, and yeah, I mean, that's fun, don't get me wrong. I like to turn my brain off and just smack W when I can in asymmetric battles, but that's not how it works in random battles. You have to use island cover. You have to work with your teammates. Playing in a division is probably one of the best things you can do if you want to brawl. Get yourself someone that's got some smoke, like a Napoli or one of the Italian battleships or cruisers, and have them smoke you up into the action, like what happens here. I had a wonderful encounter player that's popped his smoke, and I was able to get very close in the GK before the enemy team knew where I was at. Now, unfortunately, he didn't survive for too long in the match, but that's something that certainly helps you out. In this case, you might be saying, well, look, you have to use smoke to get the GK to work. Well, look, buddy, every ship can use smoke, right? Every ship is made better when you use smoke, when you use concealment, when you use good tactics to get close to the enemy team, and you play smart. So, brawling is still perfectly doable in today's World of Warships. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's going to happen in every match, because obviously it doesn't, right? There's very rarely a time that a particular playstyle works in every single match you play. Sniping's probably about as close as you're going to get, but believe it or not, there are some matches where sniping isn't really that viable because, guess what? All your spotting's gone. How many times do you lose all your destroyers at the start of the game? It's really friggin' hard to snipe when you have no spotting provided for you, right? In those cases, you're just reacting to when the enemy ship's fired, and you have a brief 20-second window to snipe, to counter-snipe, I guess you could say, but that's far from ideal when you can't see anything for a good portion of the match. How many times, think about it, have your destroyers gone down, you're sitting in the back thinking, oh my god, I wish I had some spotting. Or you're just on the flank and your destroyers are refusing to spot, and you're sitting there thinking, oh my god, will my destroyers please push up and spot? Or can my CV come do a flyby over here and spot for my team? So, yeah, not every match is going to be a brawl fest. Not every match is going to be a snipe fest. There are ways that you can, of course, again, optimize your brawling playstyle if that's what you want to do. Again, using island cover, playing smart, going where your team's going, using team support, and again, getting some friends is probably the best thing that you can do in order to, help facilitate that brawl that you want to make happen. But obviously sometimes it's just not going to happen because that's just how the match develops. They are random battles after all. Stuff randomly happens, and a lot of times it's not overly friendly to what you want to have happen in the game, right? So I'm also not saying that the high tier meta isn't extremely passive right now. It is. It absolutely is. I'm not denying that in any way, shape, or form, but you have to adapt to it, and if, again, you play smart, you can still get things to happen in the match. It's just a matter of playing the game, playing smarter, learning the maps, and figuring out what you have to do in order to get your particular ship to work in that meta. Obviously, if you're in something like the Pan-American battleships, you just have to, crank up your F-bar, and then you can have 15 kilometer secondaries for 30 seconds, which is quite the range on some secondary guns. On older school brawlers like GK, you have to use island cover to get close to the enemy team, or use some type of concealment, or try to stay unspotted for as long as you can. And again, play smart, bait enemy ships to chase you down with your very, 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 very large side that they all want to farm. Then you angle, and they realize they can't pin your broadside when you angle. They might get enticed by your massive superstructure that they can pin, but by the time they realize this, you've been chewing on them with your secondaries for quite some time. They're out of damage cons, the fires are really ticking now, and the secondaries are really chewing into their HP pool at this time. But yeah, while it's not dead in my book in 2024, it's not doing so hot. You do really have to play smart in order to get it to work on a regular basis. But again, it's not just W King. I think a lot of players really think, sorry for smacking my mic there, I really think a lot of players really think that it's just W King into the enemy team, because you see it happen so much. It happened with the Libertad all the time, and the Ipiranga, the two early access Pan-American battleships that most players are playing right now. They're just W King into the enemy team, and they're getting absolutely eviscerated. You can see it on the stream from a couple weeks ago, when literally both Libertads I ran to in 2 games back to back. They're in the front of their team at the beginning of the match, and they got melted. That's not how brawling works at higher tier. You gotta play smarter. Again, use those islands. Use your team, make use of the players that are there to support you by being there for them, right? One of the most terrifying things you can have going up against is a GK or some type of brawling battleship that's got some destroyer working with them, that's spotting for them, that's laying down smoke, that's throwing torpedoes in their advance, forcing you to turn broadside to them. That's a very powerful combination to have. So what I'm saying here, fellas, is play smarter, not harder. Learn your ship, learn the maps, learn what you need to do in order to get your ship to work in the current year that it is, whenever it is that you're watching this video. You have a much more enjoyable time rather than slamming your head against the wall trying to get, just the W key tactic to work in this game. So hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, wonderful rest of your week. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.